Deep beneath the earth, sealed away for thousands of years, lie tombs built with such care, such secrecy, and such staggering effort that even the archaeologists who study them are left with more questions than answers. Who was buried there, and why did they deserve such extraordinary monuments? How were these structures built with the tools of their time? And what were the people who made them trying to protect or to hide? Some of these tombs guard secrets we've only partly uncovered. Others refuse to give up their answers at all. Today we're looking at ancient tombs that archaeologists still can't fully explain. Let's start with a monumental one. Number 1. The tomb of China's first emperor. In 1974, farmers digging a well near Xi'an in China stumbled onto one of the greatest archaeological discoveries of all time. Beneath their fields lay the terracotta army, thousands of life-sized clay soldiers, arranged in battle formation, each with individualized faces, standing guard for over 2,000 years. These warriors were built to protect the tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor to unify China, who died around 210 BC. The scale is almost beyond belief. An entire army of clay, complete with horses, chariots, and weapons, buried underground. And each of these soldiers was originally painted in bright colors, making the buried army an even more vivid sight than the earth-toned figures we see today. But here's the astonishing part. The terracotta army, for all its fame, is only the outer guard. The emperor's actual burial mound, a massive pyramid-shaped hill nearby, has never been excavated. It remains sealed to this day. Ancient records, written by the historian Sima Qian about a century after the emperor's death, describe the tomb's interior as an entire miniature world, complete with palaces and towers, models of the heavens above, and, remarkably, rivers and seas of flowing mercury representing the waterways of the empire, said to have been kept moving by some mechanism. For a long time this sounded like legend. But then, scientific soil tests conducted around the mound detected unusually high concentrations of mercury in the earth, concentrated in a pattern that some researchers note is intriguingly consistent with those ancient descriptions. That real, measurable detail lends startling credibility to an account written 2,000 years ago. So why hasn't the tomb been opened? Partly out of respect and caution, and partly because archaeologists know from hard experience that current techniques could damage or destroy what's inside. When the terracotta figures were first unearthed, their vivid paint began flaking off within moments of exposure to the air. Rather than risk ruining an irreplaceable treasure and potentially a dangerous chamber laced with mercury, they've chosen to wait. So one of the most famous tombs in the world simply sits there, its central chamber still sealed, its full contents still unknown, quietly keeping its secrets until we're ready. Number 2. Newgrange. In Ireland, older than Stonehenge and older than the Egyptian pyramids, stands a massive stone and earth mound called Newgrange, built around 5,100 years ago. From the outside, it's an enormous circular structure. Inside, a long stone passage leads to a central chamber. And what makes Newgrange extraordinary is not just its age, but its astonishing precision. Above the entrance is a specially constructed opening called a roof box. For most of the year, the inner chamber is in darkness. But around the winter solstice, the shortest days of the year, the rising sun shines directly through that roof box, and a beam of light travels down the long passage to illuminate the inner chamber for a few minutes. This was no accident. The builders aligned this entire massive structure, tons of stone and earth, to capture the sunrise on the solstice, thousands of years before telescopes or modern astronomy. To do that, they first had to observe the sun's yearly cycle closely enough to know precisely where it would rise on the shortest days, and then engineer a structure that would channel that light down a passage many meters long to strike a specific spot. The mound is also ringed and lined with large stones, some carved with spiral and geometric patterns whose meaning we can only guess at. The tomb held human remains, so it clearly served a burial and ceremonial function, likely tied to honoring the dead. But the deeper questions linger. What exactly did that solstice sunbeam mean to these people? Was it about death and rebirth? The dead being touched by the returning light at the turning point of the year? The promise that the sun and life would come back? What ceremonies took place in that dark chamber as the light crept in? They left no writing at all, so we can only interpret the structure and its carvings. It stands as a monument built by a people we know almost nothing about, aligned to the heavens with a sophistication that still commands genuine respect from modern engineers and astronomers. Number 3. The Tomb of the Red Queen. At the Maya city of Palenque in Mexico, archaeologists made a striking discovery in 1994. Inside a temple, they found a sealed burial chamber containing a sarcophagus. When they opened it, they found the skeleton of a woman, and everything, her bones, her jewelry, the inside of her tomb, was covered in a vivid red powder. That powder was cinnabar, a mercury-based mineral used by the Maya in elite burials. Because of this striking red covering, she became known as the Red Queen. She was clearly a person of enormous importance, buried with a jade funerary mask, jade and pearl ornaments, and other precious offerings befitting royalty. The cinnabar coating itself was significant. The red color was associated with concepts of blood, life, and rebirth in Mesoamerican belief, a deliberate and meaningful choice for such an important burial. But her identity was not immediately obvious because, unlike many royal Maya tombs, which are often covered in glyphs proudly naming and dating their occupants, hers contained no inscriptions naming her at all. This silence set off a long detective effort. Researchers studied her bones, estimated her age and status, and analyzed the chemistry of her remains, comparing her to other individuals buried at Palenque, including the city's most famous ruler, Pakal the Great. Some evidence suggested she was closely connected to him, quite possibly his wife, the Queen Tsakbu Ajo. Yet the very absence of a clear name in her own richly appointed tomb, when the Maya were normally so careful to record such things, remains a genuine curiosity. Aspects of exactly who she was and why she was laid to rest namelessly beneath a blanket of blood-red powder continue to be studied and debated. Now for the supporting cast. These are a bit shorter, but no less intriguing. The unopened chambers of the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid of Giza, built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu around 4,500 years ago, still holds surprises. In recent years, using a technique that detects cosmic ray particles to see through solid stone, scientists identified a large previously unknown void deep within the pyramid, as well as a corridor near the main entrance. The larger void is substantial in size, yet its purpose is completely unknown. Was it meant to relieve structural stress? Does it hide an undiscovered chamber? Or is it something else entirely? Investigations are ongoing, and the very fact that a space this large could hide undetected for so long proves that even the most studied monument on Earth still hasn't fully revealed itself. The tomb of Alexander the Great. One of the most famous missing tombs in history belongs to Alexander the Great. After his death in 323 BC, his body was eventually entombed in the city of Alexandria in Egypt, where it was visited for centuries and reportedly viewed by Roman emperors. His tomb became one of the ancient world's great attractions, a place of pilgrimage where powerful figures came to pay respects to the man who had conquered much of the known world. And then, over the centuries, as Alexandria was reshaped by disasters, rebuilding, and the passage of time, the exact location of the tomb was simply lost. Despite countless searches over the years, some serious and some fanciful, the resting place of one of history's most legendary conquerors has never been definitively found. It may lie somewhere beneath the modern city, waiting, or it may be gone entirely. Either way, it remains a genuine and tantalizing mystery. The ship burial at Sutton Hoo. In England in 1939, Archaeologists excavating a series of mounds uncovered the imprint of an entire ship, along with a spectacular treasure of gold, garnet jewelry, weapons, and a now iconic helmet, dating to around the 600s AD. Remarkably, the acidic soil had almost completely dissolved the body, leaving the burial without clear human remains. It's widely thought to be the grave of an important king, but the absence of a body and inscriptions leaves the exact identity of the person honored with such riches open to interpretation. And finally, the tombs of the Etruscans. In Italy, long before Rome rose to dominance, the Etruscan civilization flourished, and archaeologists have uncovered their burials from a culture famous for being only partly understood, since their language is not fully deciphered. Across Etruscan sites, elaborate tombs painted with vivid scenes of banquets, dancing, and daily life give us tantalizing glimpses into their beliefs about the afterlife. Yet because we cannot fully read their writing, much of what these richly decorated tombs were meant to convey, and the exact identities and stories of those buried within, remains frustratingly out of reach. So there you have it. Ancient tombs that our ancestors built, sometimes thousands of years ago, that archaeologists still can't fully explain. China's first emperor lies in a sealed mound surrounded by mercury and an army of clay we haven't dared to fully open. Newgrange was aligned to the solstice sun with breathtaking precision by a people who left no words. The Red Queen was buried in red without a name, and the tomb of Alexander the Great has simply vanished from history. It makes you wonder how much these silent chambers still have to tell us. Tombs are, in a sense, messages sent forward through time, expressions of what people believed about death, power, and what comes after. But the messages are often written in symbols we can't fully read, in structures we can't fully explain, guarding identities we can't always confirm. And maybe that's what keeps drawing us back into the dark passages and sealed chambers. The sense that just beyond the next stone door, an answer might be waiting, if we can only find a way to reach it without destroying the very thing we're trying to understand.